Hello, everyone. We are three Black Pratt grads. I'm Mark Skinner. I'm here with my good friends Greg Cleghorn and Kenneth Nelson. And this time we're talking about, well, it's not Squid Game. Okay? Just want you to know it's not. What we're talking about is what makes an authentic photograph.
You gotta
Now,
spell that
one
one
of
out.
the things,
Yeah. Authentic. What makes an authentic? I gotta hear this. Go ahead.
yeah. What makes an authentic photograph? And I'm perfectly willing to have like a real discussion as opposed to just me speaking for our 20 minutes or whatever it is. I think it's really important for us to say that once again, we all went to Pratt. We all had a specific way of learning about photography, which was basically you buy a camera, any type of camera, as long as you could change the settings, you go and you take photographs in the real world to kind of get an understanding of how to compose, how to see light, and how to uh, create a story. Fair enough, guys? Would you all agree?
A photograph is a story.
Well, I think so. If you put up the first photo, Ken, if you put up my photo,
Yep,
you
will do.
that last time we met, we talked about you know working. Not last time, but a couple of times ago, we talked about an instance being a telling a story and having a whole
I
story.
don't see anything.
Okay,
So
and
is this abstract, like nothing as a story?
now this particular photo is a photograph. I don't know if you can see it on your screen.
I cannot.
It, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It's a photograph of dancers. Now, this photograph was taken on January 1st, 2022. And, two, 2000, January 1st, 2022 would be, that was this New Year's Day that just passed.
Mhm.
And apparently these folks, they jumped uh, out of their van and they danced, and it was raining and it was nighttime. Now, what makes this an authentic photograph? It depends on how you define the word authentic. Obviously, this was taken with a camera, right? Was it a cell phone photo? No, it was taken with a real camera, a little compact camera.
Wait. So
And
you're saying a cell phone camera isn't a camera?
no, no. What I'm saying is, this one was taken with a camera as opposed to a phone. But yeah, you can take a real, authentic photograph with a phone. Many people have. I have. You have. I'm sure Ken has as well. But what makes this photograph authentic for me is, uh, it tells the story of people having a good time on New Year's Day, and it shows that where they are, basically it's Times Square. Shows what they're doing, they're dancing. It shows, I've told you when. It doesn't really show when, but you get a feeling that it's a special occasion for them, so that's just enough. And it shows you how they're doing what they're doing. They're just, they've coupled off and they've decided to dance in the street, and it's very nice. Now, when we were learning photography, one of the things that we did was we photographed with black and white quite a bit, and darkroom technique was a big deal. And for me, to this day, the darkroom is really something that uh, I'd like to only limit what I do in terms of image manipulation to the simplest things that we did in the darkroom: cropping, burning, dodging, and that's about it. Once we start retouching and changing base colors as opposed to and color casts and things like that, I personally start to feel that there's some of the authenticity of the photograph starts to diminish. But that's okay if that's the intention. But I think in this case, because I'm looking to sort of capture a moment, what I did was I cropped a little bit of the top because there was a light above that big black space that's where the sign is, yeah,
Mhm.
in the middle of the frame. And the light was so huge that it looked like they may have been dancing in the day. So I cropped that entire, I'd say maybe about an eighth of that vertical space off. And I did a little bit of dodging in their faces and in their clothing so you could see them. And I burned a little bit into uh, the background just so that would recede just a smidgen. Otherwise, it's a very normal, just average photograph, but it's really fun. Now, the other thing that I thought was interesting about authenticity is in the old days, if you put as the copy for this, January 1st, 2022, when would you presume this was taken?
New Year's Day, 2022.
Right, New Year's Day. But would you presume that it was New Year's Day at about 10, 11 o'clock at night? Or do you think most people would think that it might be somewhere in the city New Year's Eve after the clock? Just if they saw 2000, January 1st.
No, I would, well, everyone would have a different thought, but me knowing the way the neighborhood is at specific times before the day and after the day, I would say this, if this is 1/1/22, then this is the evening of 1/1/22. It is
Right,
not.
but that's because of your familiarity with that community and that where everything, how things work in that block.
Right, because they would not be there at that if this was the night of the day of if this was New Year's Eve night.
Right. Now, I always imagine or always wonder how many sort of things like that actually happen, where a photograph, someone says it's January 1st, 2022, and so many people presume that it's later on in that evening of the New Year's that it becomes sort of this idea that it's really, oh, this must be New Year's Eve, and misinformation becomes more a thought than the actuality of when it was taken. Unfortunately, we have digital cameras that are time coded, and they kind of tell you, if you've set your camera properly. I'm usually an hour. Sometimes I'm an hour off because of the daylight savings time on the camera. But no, in all honesty, the fact that you can state what day it is a huge deal, and I know people, it's something that people take for granted right now because the phones do it all automatically, but it's really a big deal. You know, that's really it. I was just going to say that, and that it's interesting because when we were coming up, the authenticity of a photograph, no one would ever use a sort of compact camera. But I remember very distinctly there were a lot of pros who used to, if you caught them at one of those ASMP meetings or an APA meeting, mostly ASMP, they would tell you that the Olympus XA compact camera was something that they really, really loved, and they enjoyed photographing with that as much as their better brands that they had,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Leica M's or the Nikons or Canons at the time.
So if let me go back to your earlier statement, which it sounds like you're equating authenticity in photography with photojournalistic integrity and the limits on image manipulation. Is that where you're coming from?
Well, I think in this particular case, for this particular image, it's absolutely on the mark. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Now, this doesn't hold true for advertising, because quite honestly, with advertising, there's a lot of retouching. Sometimes there's compositing. All sorts of things will go on. A set is built. It's not really someone's kitchen. It's a set built on a studio, things of that nature. But in terms of what makes an authentic photograph, in terms of the philosophical understanding that I used to have, this would probably match that best in the digital age.
Okay, so how do you make the relationship as a photographer, uh, speaking to authentic capabilities of the authentic photograph to your viewer, and how do you relay that authenticity within the frame without using words to say this is authentic? So there's an immediate pickup on the viewer that it's authentic, not just in your head, but in their head as
Well,
well.
I think that is the issue, isn't it? I mean, at this point in history, we've now seen so many Photoshop images and Photoshop mishaps. I shouldn't say Photoshop, but retouching mishaps. That a lot of times
Mishaps?
photographs are
What is a
dubious.
Photoshop mishap?
When I talk about retouching mishaps, I mean cover photos where a third arm is placed on someone or a thigh is placed impossibly on someone because the model is sort of bent over in a certain way like this, and all of a sudden maybe their hands here, but it looks like they have 8 fingers instead of 5. Those types of things because a lot of retouching was done and there are mistakes.
Well,
You
like
don't
Prince
see some.
Charles with that young lady he just got, who paid the millions to her charity, where he said, well, he's the only man standing next to that young lady, and he said, "Oh my gosh, I have no idea whose hand that is wrapped around her waist." Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Actually, I was thinking more of fashion magazines that
Of course you were.
have it. But here's the thing that I'd like to ask: what made you think of that particular image? Was it because of the hand, or is there something that you find dubious about
No,
that particular?
the whole construct of authenticity sounds a little bit on the Nazi side. It's like there is a thing as a legitimate, authentic photograph, and this is the way it is, and we said so. I mean, an authentic. I can't wrap my head around the concept of an authentic
Well, like
photograph.
I said, it's kind of a personal interpretation, and it's very antiquated because, I do a lot of I've done a lot of work that doesn't fall into this category, nor is it fantastical in terms of the level of illustration. What I do tends to kind of fall in the middle when I photograph. If I photograph someone and I remove a blemish, is that authentic? No, they had the blemish there. But does that make the photo better? Sure. You know, it's
Well,
more of an illustration of who this person is. It's a representation,
photo illustration is
but
something.
it's not.
But
But it's not a.
I would contest that the whole idea of a pageant photograph is not authentic, because people don't normally walk around with crowns on their head and sparkly clothes. That to me
Well,
is inauthentic as
think
they can.
I think the broad term saying a pageant photograph is I mean there are authentically a documentation of the individual walking on the catwalk or the stage. Those are authentically captured. Most of the time they're not retouched in any way. If there's a lens flare, that tends to stay unless it really impacts the quality of the image, that sort of thing. But when you say a pageant photo that isn't authentic, what type of are you specifically talking about a particular type of photograph that you would get
I'm
in
just
pageant?
saying it's a construct. Just like language, or if you're talking about an authentic photograph, just that idea kind of rubs me the wrong way. And then
Oh yeah, it's
the
definitely an
idea
incendiary term.
also, I
Yeah.
mean, that would lend itself to hopefully this conversation that we were supposed to have about art speak, where you can legitimize or delegitimize intellectually, culturally, artistically, on a whole lot of levels, um, through the context of art, to make an argument for or against something. But to stay to a monolithic topic like this is authentic and this is not, that to me is a little scary. It gets a
Well,
little
what?
to the
Well, why
Nazism.
is it? Well, here's the question I have for you, and I get where you're coming from, and I think you have a very valid point. But why is it that there are so many of the great photographers, and let's just narrow it down to the genre of street photography, who practiced basically between 1930 and 1980? right? There's a sort of a 50-year span of the great street photographers. After that, they start to kind of, they whittle down quite a bit,
They who?
the great street photographers are those who are respected as the great street photographers or the great photographers. And I think part of it is because just like with the FSA photographers, there's the idea of a photograph as document. And I think that the ability for us to retouch images so easily, to manipulate, I shouldn't say retouch, to manipulate images so easily takes a little bit away from the perceived authenticity of a photograph. I mean, now, granted,
authenticity in what the FSA guys did, they captured raw emotion. They captured the human condition. There was a need to manipulate the image itself because what was happening came through.
Right, but the world isn't based on shades of gray. So, as you said, it is a construct.
Photographically, that's the construct.
Well, the world. I mean, there's three of us now on the screen, and although I'm sort of sitting in a gray room with a gray shirt, we're not all entirely shades of gray. I mean, everyone is red, green, blue, or whatever the spectrum is. We're all part of that. But the idea of the photograph as document is a construct, an authentic, and a document that authenticates various things from crime, and in the FSA case, it's poverty, and bringing back proof. The idea that a black and white photograph is somehow authentic, yes, that's a construct in and of itself. But given that definition that the three of us all accept, and a good part of the world accepted, because the technology was limited to a certain type of photograph, a black and white photograph with roll film being the prevalent media choice.
Okay, for me, you still haven't explained sufficiently what you mean by an authentic photograph.
Well, for me, I think an authentic photograph is one where you see something, you have an idea, or an idea comes to you, or you capture that image, minimal amount of manipulation, right, in order to convey the image that you saw, and that you don't do a tremendous amount of enhancements to add to that area, to that photograph, that which wasn't there previously. I mean, this
is the same argument that we've been having for going on years now. You're pulling the emotion out of the image and making it a pure technical craft, and you cannot do that.
Well, let's put it this way. In that photograph, right? But in my photograph, right, there are two very well-known companies displayed in that image. One is, or maybe the other one is McDonald's. If that were to run in some sort of newspaper or magazine, you and I know that in many cases, newspapers have been known to kind of, not so much crop out all the people, but just to remove, that logo, or they would remove the Old Navy or diminish that a great deal so they didn't have to get into issues. And they would still have, a photo of revelers, still partying, or still, I shouldn't say partying, but still dancing on, New Year's Day. Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's an interesting, to me, the idea of a photograph of document and being authentic is very interesting. And I think in this case, this photograph, and I'm sorry, Greg, that you couldn't see it, I think it is representative of that idea. Is it perfect? No. Is it the greatest photograph I've ever taken or has ever existed? Definitely not. But it is a photograph that meets the criteria of what used to be considered an authentic photograph.
Okay,
but
so
I think I've spoken too long on my ideas. Let's go on to what you guys hear. Again, I have Greg, you started, but go ahead. You're next, Greg, right?
I authentic. I think we should really get into the topic of the art speak. I'll do some homework on art speak because at first I didn't think it was legitimate. Quite frankly, there's a monolithic word for you. What is it? What is legitimate art? If a horsehair gets together with a Leica, do they have an illegitimate art photograph? Or, I mean, what does that mean? But for me, I just you could put up the photograph that I submitted just for giggles. But for me, authentic is kind of what the artist sees. I mean, I like colors. I like having Caribbean background. I like bright colors. I didn't realize how much I liked bright colors till I actually went to the Caribbean and saw that quite a few other people like bright colors too. So construction. There's a lot thematically going on with a colorful construction worker being the foundation of art for me, because I like bright colors and they're all there in their Caribbean cuisine and etc. etc. So I'd like to really 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 delve into art speak next time we talk.
Sure, but in terms of now,
I think
in terms of what makes an authentic photo,
what the artist sees. I mean, I don't believe there's a monolithic right and wrong photograph. If it's an art piece, it is what the artist says it is. But to say that there is an authentic, there is an authentic photograph and there is an inauthentic photograph. I'm not buying into that. That's all I got. Go ahead, next.
well, I understand. You have another image? That's a very good one. I like that image a lot. I like it quite a bit. I like it because for me, it's reminiscent of everything that I understand about the Caribbean from a tourist perspective. And quite honestly, I went to the Caribbean as a tourist when I was young, and so it satisfies those requirements. And for me, I look and I go, okay, I get it. That's a scene that if do I want to go sample the cha-cha chicken? All right, they might have some foods there for me. I'm a vegetarian, but they might have some foods there that I might want to eat. And I think that photograph presented as part of uh, a presentation on that location would be part of the information that would maybe entice me to look into traveling to that destination.
Okay. Where do you think that was taken?
I'm guessing it was Barbados from your last trip, but I'm probably wrong.
Ken, would you make that assumption?
No, I would make the assumption that it's in the U.S., probably somewhere in LA somewhere.
It's on the nose. Well, then you. Yeah. All right. Well, then you have encouraged me to go to LA just to see if Cha-Cha Chicken has anything.
You're in Brooklyn, New York. Anything, my dad said, and I'll never forget. He's like, you can't find it in New York. It doesn't exist on the planet. So I mean, you've got such a rich thing. Just go out and shoot.
Yeah. Right, but I think that also that a photograph. See, because of the colors, I presumed I made an assumption. Now, if you tell me that I can find this exotic cuisine of Cha-Cha Chicken, whatever Cha-Cha Chicken is, because I haven't been to LA as an adult, I don't know what Cha-Cha Chicken is.
But it doesn't matter.
Right?
I'm saying you can find
but it does.
experience anywhere in New York.
Right, but that doesn't have anything to do with the authenticity of a photograph. I mean, you've taken a photograph of a restaurant in LA, you've presented it, you've had us guess. I guessed horribly wrong, and Ken guessed on the nose. That's great, but I think my point is that in terms of authenticity, you've now made me go, okay, well, what else do they have that I would want to eat? I mean, they have sides that I might.
But you're missing again. You go totally left. It's not
No,
about
I think
what's on
I
their
think
menu. It's what you
right,
see visually.
right.
It's
What I saw
it's not.
visually was an
Nothing to do with the
interesting.
menu. It's got nothing to do with the. Let me write this down. It has nothing to do with the menu.
I think it has everything to do with what's being shown. You're showing me a restaurant. You're showing me that it sells Caribbean cuisine. It shows me that it's chicken, right? Is what their featured product is, right? I don't have to see the menu to know that they sell chicken. I don't have to see the menu to see. You have words in your photograph. If you don't want me to respond to the words, right? Then you have to remove them. That's what I was talking about with the Old Navy sign in my
Okay, so
previous
so
photograph.
so was this shot in the morning, or was this a sunrise shot or a sunset shot?
I would have guessed that it was the morning, but it might be sunset. I don't know. That part doesn't matter to me. That part doesn't matter to me as much as Cha Cha Chicken. I'll say it again. Cha Cha Chicken's Caribbean cuisine in Los Angeles. See, there you go. I gave you the plug. Gave Greg, you got the plug. Hope they use this for the collateral material. This I kind of want to see this restaurant. I've never been there. And if they've got some really nice vegetarian sides, I might eat there. I'll look at the menu when I get there. The menu's
They,
in the window, isn't it?
right.
It's on the left.
Yeah, they
See, but
have
I
So
think,
i-
deep
Greg,
fried
if it has
and
nothing to do with the menu, you shouldn't include it in the photograph.
yeah, but Greg, I
yes, sir.
think there's a point that you made, and I think you continue to make over the history of what we've been discussing, is that no two people will ever consider the same parameters about an image at all.
Right,
At all.
right. And I said
So
that it
one
was
person
just to
will
me.
go way left, the other person will go way right, and the other 100 will go in all the other 358 different directions, degrees
But
of direction.
at what point, Greg, do you say, because I've defined pretty much for me, I'm not saying it's hard and fast rules, but I'm saying for me, I tend to get a little squeamish at a certain point in terms of the image manipulation. At what point do you say my photograph is not really a photograph so much as it's an illustration anymore? And even though all photographs are illustrative, what is that parameter for you?
It depends on where the photographer or where the artist wants to take it. I mean, I don't have a problem with a photo illustration. I don't have a problem with what is that word, when, like, looking at a cloud and you see a bunny, where you're looking into a pile of bricks and you see, or you see it look into smoke and you see a face. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Right, now that's imagination, and I get that.
It's not
But
all imagination,
if
I
you
mean, but you
photograph a
could do
cloud,
that. You can do that photographically and create something so that it
right,
becomes a photo illustration. I don't have a problem with that, But
right.
to
Well,
delegitimize one and say that it's
I
not
didn't do that.
authentic, that's creepy to me. I mean,
Well, see, I
when you
didn't
start burning books,
delegitimize anything.
start
What I
burning.
said, I didn't say they weren't legitimate. What I said was, for me, the authenticity starts to go away. I mean, there are some things that are
Like Ken said, it's a
Right, and I think we're arguing about something that's movable for each individual person.
yes,
So to come to
yeah, and
an
that's why I
agreement on
asked.
this is moot,
Yeah.
to
Well, that's
be
why I
honest.
asked Greg what his. I mean, basically, what you're saying is if you make a print and you glue macaroni to it, it's still a photograph for you.
Yeah, can I interrupt and we just move on? Okay,
Go
all
right
right,
ahead.
because
All
we're
right, so Ken's
already,
up next.
yeah, yeah. I just wanted to sort of dig at something or a couple of images that I'll share, and I'll just be speaking to authenticity in what we're seeing and the emotion that comes through that I hope
Hey,
comes
it's
through.
a Brooklyn baptism.
What?
The Brooklyn baptism.
Well, it it
Hallelujah.
it is the un un unrehearsed image. And I think the unrehearsed image to me in street photography is what I would go as authentic. So as not to manipulate an image or what's happening in front of you to any way that changes the way you saw it when it happened. So I've been working on, like, this is one of the projects I've been working on, which is the street. But there's another project that I'm working on, which are just cups, right? And now, in order for me to cups, paper cups, coffee cups, right?
Okay, yeah,
And
I
so
like
when I
that
see coffee
series.
cups on the street, I don't change the way they look. I just photograph them as they are in the context of where they are, right?
Okay.
And
As
so
part of
therefore,
the
to
Disposable
me, it's
Society series.
right. So right, it's an unmanipulated photograph because I did not move it in any way to manipulate my viewer. It is as I saw it, and
Now
so
here,
that's
now
to me is authentic in that respect, that I'm trying to get across what I saw without trying to manipulate my viewer to any skewed emotion that they might have if I veer them in a certain way. It's like a movie. If you know, if it's like a scary movie, you know, yeah, the person's walking to investigate in this dark room, and you're saying, no, no, go the other way. You know, I don't want to manipulate that way. What I want to do is bring you in and say, this is what I'm showing you. Take it as it is.
Mm-hmm. It could be done
now,
very cool in a cool, like Andy
now,
Warhol way.
now,
If you repeated the cups here and there and everywhere. But I
Right.
like that series, though. Yeah.
well, I mean, if it were raining cups behind the gentleman, then that would also be a way of illustrating that there is enough
Yeah.
water for everyone. But my question for you, Ken, is when you create this image. Now, I know, well, I can't say I know. I'm going to ask. Number one, was this black and white film, or was this a color photograph in any type of way?
This was a black and white film, no color conversion.
Okay. Number two, when you made this digital file, when you scanned it, did you then at any point change the contrast?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now that would still fall within the parameters of our old-fashioned darkroom
Right,
aesthetic.
because
Right.
you control contrast in the darkroom.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't crop because that's part of your aesthetic is no crop.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And that's fair. And then was there any burning or dodging done at all? You don't have to tell me where, but any at all.
None whatsoever.
Okay. Well, in this case, I would say that from the parameters I defined earlier, this particular image would have more authenticity than the image that I provided based on those parameters. But if we're in a digital age, you know, you're on par. Now, this one's far more energetic, you know. Everyone in my pictures, they're having a good time, but you get a sense
You
of the
don't look
urgency.
like it.
Well, I thought so. Wait, they don't look like they were having a good time? I thought you
No.
couldn't see it.
It was hard to perceive that they were dancing.
No, I don't know.
Because when you
I thought
mentioned
you
it to
couldn't.
me, I noticed the people on the right, and they were in a position which looked like it could have been dancing, but I wasn't sure until you said so.
There was no dynamicism. How does this make you? How does this image make you feel, Mark? Do you get any sort of an emotional reaction from this?
Honestly, it makes me say, "Oh wow, I remember that," and I've taken photographs of folks work, you know, having a good
Okay,
time
that's not emotional.
It's a fire hydrant. I grew up in New York City. People
Okay, so
used to play in fire hydrants.
do
Maybe
you
not so
have
much
an
anymore.
emotional reaction to this image?
Me personally, other than I think it's good, and I wish I had taken it. No.
Okay.
Wow.
Have you ever drunk from a fire hydrant? Have you ever drunk
Oh
water from a
yeah.
fire? Right?
I
Have you
see
ever drunk
cold.
it with your hands?
Yes.
Right?
So they did.
Exactly. So right.
No,
So you
we
scooped
weren't going to
it
get a
up and you
cup.
put it into your mouth, or
Right.
you actually bent down and sort of angled the water into your mouth. Right. So
Right. But not they didn't let us play in the fire hydrant very long.
They
right.
who?
My parents.
Oh my.
Okay, but
The fire hydrant used to be right in front of my home, so they were not interested in having their children right out there in the street all day like that. That just wasn't who they were.
Okay, for the sake of moving on, I just have one more image to show you, and then I'll be done. And it's this one, and it's a recent one that I've done, and it's something that I've been working on because again, this falls in line with the other one. No manipulation, full frame and everything. Just the perspective is different. And then holding true to authenticity and showing you the exact way I perceived it to be, because I was not looking through camera when this photograph was taken. The camera was on a tripod at the ground level, looking up, and I was just looking. Actually, I was tethered to my camera by Wi-Fi on my phone, and so when something appeared on my phone, I clicked the shutter. And so what's authentic to me is, and what I have this inability to do, is show authenticity to a level that sort of gives a little bit of a risque to the image.
Okay.
And and what I've been doing lately is I've been holding back on these type of images, because normally I wouldn't show this, right? But I've decided that I'm not going to hold back on showing things like this, because it's not bad and it doesn't really give away anything, but it gives more away than the G-rated imagery would.
I think
that has nothing to do with anything, but just the way this thing is. The MS and the KN represents where you guys are in this Skype meeting. It's like covering that woman on the right's butt, like if that was the intention. So I
gotta
MS
say,
on her right butt cheek,
I gotta
KN
say,
on
Ken,
her left butt cheek. It's pretty amusing.
from where I am, from my perspective, I'm not crazy about this particular image, because there's you're kind of where the subway grade is.
That would force you to have an emotion.
And so, well, looking up someone's skirt is not the kind of photograph that
he's not actually looking up the skirt. I like the angle, and it actually looks like a sort of a festival.
I think there's I just don't think it's for me. This isn't. It's not. I wouldn't do it.
Right.
I wouldn't photograph this.
We already know that.
And I wouldn't.
I'm aware of that.
Okay,
so
guys. That's all I got.
Right. Well done. Keep shooting some awkward pictures, Ken. I enjoy your eye.
Thank you.
Well, I will commend your bravery in showing that. It's something I wouldn't photograph, and
right. And
you're trying
to about that.
Keep your artistic integrity.
Yeah, well, and when I look at that image, and I know it works for me, right? And then there's this twinge of doubt that it'll work for other people and it may offend other people, and so therefore I sort of put it back into the file and say, no, I'm not going to share it, and that in itself leads to an inauthentic perspective within my part that shuts down the authenticity that inspires me to take a photograph like that.
I think it's an integrity thing. That's not part of your normal vision, and it is because it is risque. That's not a Kenny Nelson thing. Your other images are strong enough that whatever angle it is, it's solid enough that you're getting a dancer doing what a dancer does. That one does lead a little bit, toward the mirror on the shoe, so you could look up skirts. We know that that's not you, but it's kind of risque in that manner.
I think, it starts from the Marilyn Monroe over the subway grate in the 7-Year Itch. I mean, you're basically from the point of view of the subway grate, and there's actually a subway grate underneath, and it has its commercial applications. If you were selling shoes, or if you were selling hosiery, that would would probably.
Or if you went out and just found that subway grate and waited there because that's going to happen sooner or later. That would be cool.
I don't know. Well, I don't know, Greg.
Okay.
One of the things I did not. Say is,
right. When I set up the shot, it was not set up with the intent of that happening.
No.
It just happened as I was that.
I understand.
Right.
Yeah. I did not intend to shoot photograph near that grate. It just happened to be there because the perspective I was looking for was looking up the block.
Right. You were
Not up
looking,
her
well,
skirt. I understand.
Not
right,
a
but
skirt.
no, that wasn't
maybe,
your
you know,
intention.
if you have a
But it's
model
interesting
friend or
because
something.
you're compositionally, you kept the great,
Right.
Right.
No, right. Because with the name of this project is called Frame of View. And it started in 2000. It started years ago when I was shooting black and white film. And it's always meant to ground the photograph to the ground. So the ground is always going to be in the photograph because it's down low. If I were to aim at a pie, you don't see the ground. You don't know that you're at ground level. You just don't know. So that's why the ground has to be in there at all the time when I shoot these photographs. All right, guys.
I like the
We're
idea.
40
I like
minutes
the
in.
series. I say keep pushing it.
Thank you. We're 40 minutes in, about 25 minutes over our good times. So
our goal.
yeah, I'll go. Okay, Mark, if you want to sort of close this out.
All right, so we have been 3 Black Pratt grads.
Still
We've
are.
been talking about what makes an authentic photograph, and the range has been from a document all the way to anything you want, as long as you use light-sensitive material, it seems to be. And have a good night. Wait,
Okay.
I almost forgot.
What?
Did you cut it? No. I am Mark Skinner. I'm here with Greg Claycorn and Kenneth Nelson. Now have a good night.
We'll see you next time.